Hi there guys, it's Rick here and welcome to Rick's Guitar School. Today we have Scales and Arpeggios class. Well, it's more of a scales class. I've had quite a lot of messages from some of you guys out there asking how I memorized the 7 different positions of the major scale. It's not all that complex, but I know a lot of you guys out there struggle to get those shapes under your belt in terms of remembering what the positions are. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the ways that I've done that in the past, and I'm going to give you some tips on the way the guitar is laid out according to this tuning so that you can use it to your advantage. So we're going to get to that shortly, but first, make sure you subscribe to my website. You can do so by clicking the link in the video description box. That will take you directly to my website, and there on the home page you can pop in your email address and subscribe. This content that I'm making available exclusively to subscribers only is absolutely free, so you won't be charged a penny for this. All you got to do is pop in your email address to get instant notification of HD guitar lesson content. You can also check out lots of different sections of my website for lessons, all free of course, such as the practice room where you'll get the HD guitar lessons plus backing tracks for you to practice over. You can also check out the HD Guitar Lessons store section of my website where you can purchase high quality, instantly downloadable lesson content, which include video, all HD with dual camera angles and tons of backing tracks and PDFs, all really high quality. So make sure you check that section out. Okay, let's get cracking with the lesson. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is break down the major scale so that we can have a look at the fingerings that we need in order to play the scale in all of the 7 positions. In actual fact, we only need 3 shapes of the left hand. So I'm going to show those to you now. And then the next step is understanding with each position what order those shapes come in. So I'll explain that when we get to it. Firstly, let's take our shape number 1. We can call it fingering number 1, but I'll just probably refer to it as number 1 and so on. So here's our first shape. So if we're in the key of G major, it looks like this. If I play it, we get notes which are a tone apart. Okay, that's fingering number 1. Fingering number 2 is this shape where we have the index finger on fret 3. This is just an example, I'm basing it from the same root. And then the second finger is a fret higher, then the little finger is a tone higher. So that's fingering number 2. And then fingering number 3 uses the third finger. Like that. So we've got fingering number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay, those are the only fingerings we actually need in order to play all 7 positions of the major scale. And of course that includes all of the modes that are contained within any major scale as well. So it covers a lot of ground, this. The next thing that you need to understand is the order in which these sequences occur. I like to think of it this way. If we had a low B string on this guitar, if it was a 7-string guitar, in order to, I'll stay in the same key here, G major, in order to play the notes which belong in G major, we would have an extra fingering number 1 on the low B string. So we would have fingering number 1 3 times. So on the imaginary B string, 1, 2, 2, like that. Then on the E string, then on the A string. So we would have 3 fingering number 1s, and then we would continue on fingering number 2 twice, then fingering number 3 twice. If I had more strings here, an infinite number of strings, that pattern would then repeat itself. I would have 3 fingering number 1s, 3 fingering number 2s, then 2 number 2s and 2 number 3s, okay? And then that would repeat itself over and over and over again. So that's the basis on which this lesson rests here, is understanding and being able to visualize that sequence of fingerings one after the other. So this is the way I like to think of it. I like to think of it as 3 fingering number 1s, 2 fingering number 2s and 2 fingering number 3s, okay? Now, in order to learn any major scale, all of the 7 positions effectively, you've got to know whereabouts in this sequence that you start for each shape. And that's really, really easy to remember. You can just jot it down, and you can just occasionally get your notes out whenever you need it, just to remind yourself. But after a while, it will become instinctive, this. So let's start with, we're in G major, we'll keep it in G major. Our first shape for G major is the second of our fingering number ones. So it's like this. So we know where we are now in the whole sequence. So if this is the second of our fingering number one, this is the third, then we go to fingering number two twice, then fingering number three twice, and then we have our G major scale. Okay, hopefully this is making sense to you. Now we're going to move into the second position of G major, and I'll tell you exactly where you need to start. You will be starting shape-wise on the second of our fingering number threes. So fingering number three is that. We're starting on our second fingering number three. So what's going to follow that? Fingering number one again. And we get fingering number one 3 times. And then back to fingering number two. Okay. There we have our Dorian shape. If we go up to the Phrygian, that starts with the second of our fingering number two shapes. So we've got that information, we then can continue with our pattern. So second of fingering number two is obviously going to be followed by fingering number three twice, then fingering number one. So we have our Phrygian, or third position of the G major scale. Excellent. Then we can go on to our fourth pattern, fourth shape. That starts with the third of our fingering number one. Okay, so we know from that the following pattern, or the following shape, will be fingering number two twice, then fingering number three twice, and then back to fingering number one. Okay, so we have. Okay, then we go on to position 5, which starts here, and that starts on fingering number one, the first of fingering number one. This is a really good shape to show the actual shapes themselves, because it starts from the beginning, sort of, well, at least the way I see it, from the first of fingering number one. So we get 3 of them. Okay, then you get fingering number 2, then 1 of fingering number 3. Okay, excellent. Move on to shape number 6. That starts with the first of our fingering number 3. So we know where we are in the sequence now, we can continue it. So the first of our fingering number 3, we've got another one, then it's back to fingering number 1 3 times, then fingering number 2. Okay, and then finally we're on shape number 7, which would be Locrian mode. And that starts with the first of fingering number 2. So it follows that we get the second fingering number 2, then number 3, number 1. And there we have it. We've got all of our major shapes. So the key with this is to know where you start with, to know with which shape you start with. Remember as well, when you learn these shapes, it will become instinctive the more you practice it. Hopefully you'll be able to do this from any spot on the fretboard, on any string, because I always like to let my ear guide me. So if I was in the key of G major and I pick this note, for instance, I'm not thinking there in terms of shapes as such, although they are instinctively there. My ear was telling me where I was in relation to G there, which enabled me to play positions. So realistically, you should be able to do that wherever you are on the fretboard, whichever note you start with. Well, that's a root. Let's start here. So you should be able to do that with any major scale. Start on any note, on any string, and continue the sequence. Okay, that wraps up today's lesson. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've got a lot out of it. And don't forget to subscribe to my website, www.rick-graham.co.uk. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy.